So good afternoon, and thank you very much for inviting me to this positive seminar. Thank you. Well, I would like to challenge you now, because I'm not representing the local level, but the government at a very, very high level, namely the European Union. And this is already a challenge because, let's say, the level of abstraction and complexity will increase. Secondly, I am the master of the metrics in the European Union, the chief statistician. This is also not something where many of you will be familiar with. In that sense, I think the challenge will be now to explain what is the role of the European Union and governments in general for the creation of a positive economy, and how can positive metrics help to get a change towards a direction which is more sustainable. Let me explain firstly the role of governments in general as I see it. Of course, it makes a sense to understand the kind of complementarity between the corporate sector, those who are representing in the room foundations and the philanthropic part of the positive economy. But I also see a very important role for governments to play, because governments, they are not directly creating values, but governments can help to create values, or they can block to create values with tax systems, with trade negotiations, with social and environmental standards, and last but not least, with good or with lousy figures. So in that sense, I think let's understand that my role is here to represent the European Union and politics at that level, and to explain how monitoring and metrics help the society, that society can understand the societal phenomena, and that also participation and equal access to data is a positive value for the citizens. Firstly, I would like to focus on the European level and the midterm strategy which was agreed amongst all European member states, the Europe 2020 strategy. Secondly, I would like to have a short view on the measurement side, GDP and beyond, and quality of life. And last but not least, I will have a short let's say, view to the UN level and what is happening there, because I think this is also quite relevant for all of us in the European Union or elsewhere. The Europe 2020 strategy is the midterm strategy of the European Union, set up in 2010 and reaching out to 2020. So we are now halfway. 2005 is the middle year of that strategy, and I will come back later to it. The general philosophy of the European Union in 2010 was simply saying, yes, we believe still in growth. However, the growth of the future should be smart, driven by knowledge. It should be sustainable, not at the expense of other countries or future generations. And it should be inclusive, so that all people in the European Union participate from the benefits of that growth. This was the general philosophy. So a growth strategy, but under new conditions. Then also quite important for this growth strategy was that from the very beginning, you can imagine that in the complexity of 28 member states with 500,000 citizens, you cannot simply say we share values and that's it. So you have to manage it in such a way that you agree on quantitative targets, and that these quantitative targets are then leading to policy making and to decisions which are streamlined to help everything to go in the right direction. And this then was agreed amongst the leaders of member states to be enshrined in 8 target values. And you see here the target values: 3% of GDP should be invested in R&D, and so forth and so forth. Greenhouse gas emissions should in 2020 be 20% lower than in 1990, and so forth. So 8 target values and 7 flagship initiatives which were the tools to achieve these targets. So youth on the move, for example, to get people moving around Europe whilst they are in their education phase, and so forth. Now, the next one is about the monitoring of these targets. And I would like to remind you what happens if monitoring is not functioning well. We had in 2009 what we call in statistics the Greek drama of data, which was the starting point of the government sovereign debt crisis in Europe, because the figures which we received from Greece were not up to the standards or not compliant and not comparable. A big drama, and therefore the monitoring of the data is quite important. From the very beginning, official statistics, what I represent, is a democratic exercise. So what we measure is finally decided in legislation through parliaments and through a very wide consultation of what is priority to be measured and not. So this is distinguishing us in official statistics from our colleagues in the private sector. And with this involvement, we at the end achieve a lot of publications, all of which are on websites. They are free of charge, and every citizen in Europe can access the data bank and all these publications. So if you want to make your mind up for which party and which political leader you would like to vote in the next election, please go to Istat's website in Rome or to Eurostat's website in Luxembourg, and then there you will find all the results of success or failure. Now I would like to have a quick video from 2005 to 2013 in 10 seconds, and I would like to explain to you this clock which represents the 8 target values. At 12 o'clock, you see the employment rate in the normal working age between 20 and 64. At 5 o'clock, you find primary energy consumption. This is the environmental side. And around 9 o'clock, or 9:30, you see tertiary educational attainment. This is the education part of the program. So on the top, midnight or midday, you see the social part. On the right-hand side, the environmental. On the left-hand side, you see the education. Now, the green line is the status in 2008, and the red line is what the status should be in 2020. And now we start with the blue line in 2005. Now 10 seconds is not working. 2006, 2007, 2008. You see here, then 2009, there was a big achievement in terms of greenhouse gas emissions and so forth. And now it's approaching 2012 and 2013. The end result in 2013 is quite remarkable because from the target values which were supposed to be achieved only in 2020, those on the environmental side were relatively achieved. The same for education, but a big failure for the employment and the people at risk of poverty. So it's very clear where the problems were in 2013, namely on the social and the distributional side, whereas all the others have been relatively well achieved. Of course, the reasoning behind is the crisis between 2010 and 2013, which has given a big blow to the social program which were meant to achieve the social target values. Currently, this 2020 program is under revision. There was a broad consultation last year. All more or less parts of the civil society were consulted, and the strategic review is now ongoing under the new commission, the so-called Juncker Commission, which of course also will follow the 10 priority areas which have been set out by Jean-Claude Juncker. So the plan is, by the end of this year, to have a revised version of this midterm strategy until 2020, and then to have an orientation for the next 5 years. Within the next 5 years, it's clear that the strategy of the Juncker Commission is very much focusing on the creation of jobs, and the creation of jobs together with the creation of growth. You have certainly recognized the initiative for a big strategic investment fund, and all of this is meant to help out the countries from their particularly difficult situation in the southern part of Europe. So this is the big motto of the next years: jobs, growth, and investment. And the 3 pillars which are foreseen is boosting the investment, structural reforms, and pursuing responsible, growth-friendly fiscal consolidation. Now, the GDP and Beyond is a measurement initiative which was set up together with member states of the European Union, and it was also very much inspired by the so-called Stiglitz Commission in 2009. You might remember that there was a commission under Joe Stiglitz, Jean-Paul Fitoussi, and Mr. Sen, financed by the Sarkozy government. And all of this has led to a kind of new program where at the end the statisticians want to complement the measurement of GDP by Beyond. And the Beyond are indicators with the same quality to be published in the same moment of time like the GDP quarterly or national figures. And what is included is the household economy, time use, production outside of the markets, sustainable environment, and the quality of life. In quality of life, we have integrated last year a questionnaire on the subjective well-being, and I just have a picture here what one of the outcomes is. The happiness of European citizens is quite different. You see the dark blue in the north, in particular in Denmark, shows it's a higher level of happiness than, for example, the light versions in Portugal, Greece, Bulgaria, Romania, and Slovakia. The way forward will be to come up with a broader set of indicators at European level, but also, I will come to this in my last part, at UN level, where you will find at par the social indicators, the environmental indicators, with the well-known macroeconomic measurements. Now, this does not work. Maybe I'm okay. I just come to the end of my speech, but this does not work any longer. Okay. Over. Okay. Then, at UN level, last sentence, at UN level, there is now a negotiation of all member states of the United Nations, which at the end will define in September in the General Assembly so-called Sustainable Development Goals and Targets. And these are not only planned to be implemented in the developing world, but also in the industrialized countries, which means that for us in Italy, in France, in Germany, in Luxembourg, we will also play a role at the UN level, be it for our own countries or be it in cooperation with partners in Africa, in the Southern Pacific or in Latin America. So this is very important to bear in mind, that here also a kind of political movement at UN level and a measurement go hand in hand, hopefully coming to a conclusion which will lead to a better and positive development for the next 15 years, since the UN plan is to go to run until 2030. Thank you very much.